Oh, hey, welcome to my desk. Today I'm going to be drawing Steven Universe. Okay, so it's actually like really hot in here. I'm sweating kind of a lot. And it's only May. I'm really not looking forward to this summer in this room. But I am going to be drawing some of the characters from Steven Universe. Which, if you don't know, is an animated series from 2013 that was on Cartoon Network, created by Rebecca Sugar. And I'm going to start with a character called Garnet. Garnet is sort of like the leader of this alien group of magical gems that have been on Earth for thousands of years and are protecting it from their own race, which tries to colonize other planets and destroy them for their own, their own needs and their own empire, led by diamonds at the top. And Garnet is in a mysterious leader that you learn kind of the lore about over time throughout the course of the series. And she's voiced by the singer Estelle, who you may know as the singer of American Boy, which is a pretty old song now, but it was a pretty big deal at the time. That's the only song I know by her, but when I found that out, I thought it was funny. And she sounds really different, honestly, on this show, but I guess, some similarities in the art style. I think I mentioned in my video about Adventure Time that this is kind of like the Cal Arts style of animation, which, you know, people have a lot to say about, but I was reading that the style has also was like influenced by like anime and like video games that the creator grew up playing with her brother. But Pearl here was like the assistant servant of the initial leader of the Crystal Gems, who was Stephen's mother, and she gave up her physical form to create Stephen. But she was like in love with her, and there was like, I mean, not just this relationship, but there's a lot of different types of like LGBTQ representation on this show. So this was just one of those examples. Okay, so that's Pearl. And, okay, so now I'm gonna draw Stephen himself. Okay, so Stephen, as I said before, is like half human and half gem. And he's very confused. He kind of acts as a little bit of an exposition for us because he's like learning a lot about the lore at the same time as the audience. And his character is actually based on Rebecca Sugar's brother, who is also an artist on the show. And he does look like this actually. He has like curly hair like this. But like his personality is based on how he was as a kid. And he's just like a very kind, like sweet boy who just wants the best for everyone. And he's like a real peacemaker. And he's always like, his special gift is to heal others. And he has like a defensive weapon. His weapon is a shield. Each of the gems has their own weapon, and this is a shield. So I thought, that was a cool choice. Okay, so that's Steven. And one of the cool things about these characters is that they have the ability to fuse and create and become like a third type of person, or like a combination of each of the characters in a new personality that is like it's one individual. So I'm gonna draw one of those fusions, and I'm gonna draw Opal. Opal is the fusion between Pearl and Amethyst, and the fusions often have like a combination of the attributes of each of the characters that fuses. And so you can see, like, even in the character design, that Opal looks a little bit like Pearl and a little bit like Amethyst. And because their personalities are so different, I guess, it's kind of like hard to maybe assimilate. I don't know. Opal seems very like mysterious in a way, because Pearl is very kind of like straight and narrow, and Amethyst is kind of like a wild child. They become like this very centered, balanced fusion together, in my view. And they also just get like crazy bigger when they fuse. They become like a giant woman, which is actually a song that Stephen sings in the episode that androgynous, beautiful, like teenager character, even though Connie and Stephen are young children. And there's an interesting episode where they fuse, and there's just like a lot going on in that episode. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm giving a good explanation of the series, but if you haven't seen it, I think I would recommend it, even if you're not a child, because honestly, there's just some really deep stuff happening on the series, and a lot of like big issues and themes that are dealt with, like on a really big scale, and I think it's just really handled in a beautiful, very like character-driven way. And I did watch it. It's actually been a few years since I watched it, but I really enjoyed this show, and I think it can be enjoyed by people of all ages. So yeah, give it a watch if you've not seen it. Alright, so that was Stevonnie. And I'm not going to draw any more characters today, I don't think. But I hope you liked it. Well, I hope you liked this one. Let me know in the comments if you've seen Steven Universe and what you thought of it. And I will see you in the next one.